side, and I've got all my food and ingredients on the other side. Now, that's not the right way of doing it. It's just the way I do it. So, and for you, it's coming up with a way that works, or a system that works for you. All right then, so looking at our recipe, it says chicken schnitzel, prep time is about 15 minutes. Yep, cook time is about 30 minutes, and it serves about 4. Great. Now you can see that I've got a red arrow there, and in this recipe, those red arrows are quite important because there are a couple of things here, particularly when we start frying, that it's really important that you ask for help if you need it. So you don't have to be a hero and try to manage things on your own. That's how accidents happen. So there might be points where I'll say, hey, if you want to ask for help, go and ask for help. So that's all good. All right, so notes, this recipe requires the chicken to be shallow fried in oil. Yeah, rookie cooks will require the supervision of an adult, and do not attempt to do this on your own unless you cook all the time. All right, fantastic. Our ingredients. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to bring my ingredients so that you can sort of see them. All you need to do is just check that you've got them on your workbench. And this is the great time where you can sort of pop something out of the fridge or the pantry if you need to go and grab it. What it means is that when you get into the cooking process, it will be so much more smoother. All right, fantastic. So you'll need some breadcrumbs. I've just literally got Coles brand. You'll need some Parmesan cheese. That's already grated. If you haven't got it grated, we can grate that in the process. I've just got some in a container. It's very real here. We're not fancy. This is all about real cooking in your kitchen. So you're seeing the actual container that my Parmesan cheese is. I just pulled it out of my fridge. You'll need some garlic powder. If you don't have garlic powder, where's mine? If you don't have garlic powder, that's fine. You can use fresh garlic or minced garlic, but garlic powder just makes it a little bit easier to work with. You'll need some lemon rind, some flat leaf parsley. I've literally jumped outside and picked up, I've got some chives, some fresh oregano. We're at the end of the parsley, so I've picked a few extra things. You don't even need that in your recipe, but if you want a little bit of herbs, great. You need some plain flour. Great, plain flour. You'll need an egg. You need a little bit of milk. You'll need some chicken breast that's already been sliced up for you. Now, if you haven't done that already, make sure that you get a grown-up to help you. So that is a little bit tricky. Sometimes we can just buy chicken schnitzel already sliced up, and that always makes it easier as well. And you'll need some vegetable oil for frying. So depending on what kind of oil, whether you use olive oil, I've got some, clearly I use a lot, olive oil, or whether you're just using some vegetable oil. Fantastic. Great. And in terms of our equipment, you're going to need some measuring cups and measuring spoons. Right here. Measuring cups and measuring spoons. You'll need some baking paper. You'll need a rolling pin or a mallet, depending if you've got a mallet, great. I do, but it's like 1,000 years old, so I just use my rolling pin. A chopping board, a knife, 3 shallow bowls, and I'll show you the size that you'll need. I just usually use my pasta dishes, like sort of wide open dishes, but you can use something like that. So looking at that from the front, just so that you can put your eggs and your flour and your parmesan, all the rest of it, and your chicken, and pop it in there. Great. You'll need some tongs. You'll need a frying pan. And if you've got a frying pan with a Teflon base or a non-stick base, what you're wanting to do is use utensils that also have a non-stick base. So what we try not to do, it depends what happens at your house, but what we don't want to do is use metal equipment on a non-stick base, because otherwise the metal can sometimes, well, can scratch the non-stick. Great. All right. And a baking dish. So a baking dish or a baking tray. Fantastic. All right. Are we good? Great. I love it. All right. We'll come back to the Waldorf or the crunchy salad later on. We don't need to worry about that quite yet. Has everybody got their chicken sliced up? Great. Great. I love it. All right. Fantastic. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to get our chicken and we're going to grab some baking paper. So I've got 2 sheets of baking paper. So 2 sheets of baking paper. Now, what we're doing here is we're working with raw chicken. So what we want to do is we want to minimize what we touch with the raw chicken. So I'm going to use a pair of tongs to pick up my piece of chicken. I'm going to pop it underneath my baking paper. Great. And then I'm going to get my rolling pin and just start bashing it. Now I'm going to move my face while you guys do that so you can just see my overhead camera more clearly. But what we want to do is we want our piece of beautiful chicken to be nice and even. We don't need to smash the life out of it. We just want it to be nice and even and flat. So obviously the overhead is going to bang a little bit while I do this. All right, and the next step is going to be getting our 3 bowls ready. Oh, well done, Casey. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, now. All right, so now we're up to step 5. So we're going to combine the breadcrumbs, lemon rind, parmesan, parsley leaves, garlic powder in a bowl. All right, so the first thing we're going to add is 2 cups of breadcrumbs. 2 cups of breadcrumbs. Now, if you've been to my class before, you know that I'll never measure over the bowls. We always measure at the side and then add it to the bowl afterwards. So 2 cups of breadcrumbs. I'm just giving it a little tap on the bottom. All right, so 2 cups of breadcrumbs. And when you're finished with an ingredient, either close the lid, put it back into the container. Just do that as you use it so that you're not ending up with a whole stack of things all over the kitchen bench. So 1/3 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. And you can add as much or as little Parmesan cheese as you want if you're not a big fan of it. It gives a nice salty and creamy element to the crumb. Parmesan cheese is quite salty. So measure it at the side and add it in. a tablespoon of lemon rind. So I've got my box grater here. Let's say this is a more typical one. And there's 4 different sides. I'm going to use, there's 2 sides that are kind of like gratery. I'm going to use the bigger side. And we only want the very outside of the lemons. So we don't want to go down to the white bit because that is called the pith and that's bitter. So we just want to give it a nice little grate and then we turn it. So Daisy, mine's running all over the place. Now, it doesn't actually have to be specifically a tablespoon. If you've got a tablespoon, fantastic. But if you don't have that much, it's fine. I'd say whatever you can get out of 1 lemon will be fine. It's going to add a nice amount of sort of freshness or zest. So far we've got 2 cups of breadcrumbs, 1/3 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 1 tablespoon of lemon rind, or as whatever you can get out of 1 lemon. And we're going to use that lemon juice for our salad afterwards, so don't throw it away. Then you'll need 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now, garlic powder is an annoying little thing in that it often gets really, like it clumps, it dries together. So I'm just get a spoon or a knife just to dislodge it. If you're using garlic, like grated garlic, my suggestion would be to use, how much are we doing of this? 1 teaspoon. I would do 2 teaspoons of garlic. If your family loves garlic, then do 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. But the flavour intensifies when it gets dried, whether that's a herb or a spice. So 1 teaspoon. So I've dislodged my... And again, I'm not measuring over the bowl. Beautiful. At the side, and then I'm adding it to my bowl. Great. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And then just grab either a spoon or a fork or whatever you've got, and then give it a nice little mix around. Right. Oh, and your parsley leaves. I forgot my parsley leaves. You've got parsley leaves. You can either give them a nice little snip. I use scissors for herbs, just to make it easy, because otherwise they get a bit squashed if I do them with a knife. So just great. I always think it just looks a bit nicer if we've got a little bit greenery, because we've got the freshness of the herbs and then we've got that little bit of lemon zest. So nice. So it just sort of takes our crumb to another level. Beautiful. Just got my oregano. It's time, actually. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so once you've done that, that's our crumb. And then the next thing we're going to do is add 1/2 cup of plain flour to this bowl here. 1/2 cup of plain flour. Now, if you're doubling, like if you've got a lot of chicken pieces, you might need to double your measurements for your breadcrumbs and your flour. But if you're doing how much chicken is it? If you're doing half a kilo of chicken or 500 grams of chicken breast, this should be enough. All right, so I'm just measuring again into the, oh, that's not half a cup, is it? Let me see. Yes, it is. Half a cup of flour. Great. And just pop that at the side. Half a cup of flour into that guy there. And our last bowl is we're going to do our little egg wash. So first thing to do is crack an egg. Now I usually, if I'm cracking an egg into a bowl and I'm doing multiple eggs, I will crack it into a single bowl on its own. And the reason I do that, I just do that every time, just in case I get eggshells cracked or it ends up having a nasty bit in it. It's just my little thing to make it easy to check it in that bowl. So I do that every single time. Right. And then you'll need a tablespoon of milk. A tablespoon of milk. Just measuring it again, measuring it at the side. And then just giving it a little whisk. Beautiful. Don't need to whisk it long. Oh, I don't need to whisk it. You just want to get rid of that. You want it so it's nice and smooth. The next part of the exercise, I'm going to just I'm just going to grab the 2 pieces of baking paper that I used before. If you've already thrown them out, just grab another, some more baking paper. Side, because what we're doing is we're creating a production line. So I've got my little bowl with the chicken in it there. And we want to put our flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs in the right order. So first thing is flour, and just miraculously I've actually got it in the right order. We're going to go flour, then egg, then breadcrumbs, then tray. And you can make it work whatever system that you want. I've got my chicken sort of half covered up because there's these pesky little flies around. So first thing that I'm going to do is just coat, get that out of the way, just coating my piece of chicken and then giving it a bit of a shake. And then just putting it into the egg mixture. And what you want to do is definitely just lift it up and let go of the tongs, because the tongs can sometimes hide little patches where it hasn't got wet. So I'm giving it a nice toss in the egg wash, and then I'm letting all of that run off. You don't want to waste it. And then I'm just going to dip that into my breadcrumb mix. Fantastic. And you want to make sure that it hasn't folded up on itself. And then I'm going to put it straight onto my tray. All right, fantastic. And then you can repeat it. So keep in mind, again, that we're working with raw chicken, so be really careful what's splashing around and what you've touched. So this is one of those recipes where we wash our hands a lot. This is a weird piece of chicken that this one is, but And there's no really wrong way. Like the chicken will taste great no matter what sort of shape, whether it ends up looking like a schnitzel or whether it ends up looking like Australia, as opposed to my one here, which looks like. Okay, so now what we're doing here is we are at step 12. Now, there's always a little bit of a problem that some people worry about with cooking chicken, and worried whether the outside's cooked but the inside isn't. So one of the things that I do is that I'll often cook, if I've got thicker pieces of chicken, then sometimes what I'll do is I'll turn my oven onto 180 degrees and I'll cook the outside of my chicken, and then I put it onto a baking tray and finish it off in the oven. And that way I know that I've got the right colour on the outside, and I know that my chicken is going to be cooked all the way through, because no one wants burnt chicken on the outside but raw in the middle. So if you want to try that method, I suggest that you turn your oven on now to 180 degrees. So if you want to cook it all on the stove top, you can, but the other option is to turn your oven on to 180 degrees. And this is a foolproof, I call it the fail-proof method. I'll start again. Fail-proof method. All right, fantastic. And then because you've got raw chicken on this tray, you're going to need another tray to put your finished chicken once you've finished cooking it. So you're going to need another tray, like a baking tray, if you're going to put it into the oven, to put your finished chicken on, because we can't put cooked chicken where raw chicken was before. So I've just got a little baking tray. I'm going to grab my baking paper again. Fantastic. And I'm just going to have that near my saucepan so I don't have to reach over anything. We don't want to be able to reach, we don't want to have to reach over the hot oil. Fantastic. Now, sometimes when you go to the takeaway store and you see them, they might deep fry their schnitzels. We're not going to be deep frying today. Deep frying gets them that really deep sort of dark brown colour. But today what we're going to do is we're going to shallow fry. So shallow, which is, you know, like just a small amount, is what we're doing. So I'm going to turn my fry pan on. So you hear a little bit of background noise. I apologise for that. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing so that you can see how I'm going about this. And I'm putting my pan over a medium heat. We don't want it too high. We don't want the outside to burn. We just want it to be a nice golden. So then I'm going to cover the base of my frying pan with some oil. Now, that's going to differ for different people, because what you'll find is that the breadcrumbs are what we call really thirsty, that they will absorb the oil a lot. So we have to be really careful that we create enough oil that the breadcrumbs don't end up burning. So we want it on a medium. I know the recipe says medium high, but I don't want it on a medium high. And you might find that you'll have to adjust your pan, like the temperature, as you cook. So you might find that it starts to get really hot, and then you'll need to turn it down a bit. And this is the point where you ask for help if you're not sure. So again, like I said before, don't be a hero, because nobody wants burnt arms or anything. You don't want burnt anything. All right, now, because I'm using a non-stick pan, I've got a non-stick tongs, and I'm also got non-stick, like an egg lifter, to help me turn my spatula. You can see that my little cooktop is slightly on the, turn it down. That's better. All right, so I'm going to add one to test. Add your first one just to test to see, is it hot enough? You can hear that nice, you can see and hear that nice sizzle. So that's a great temperature. But as I said before, you may end up needing to turn your pan either up or down. I've got a nice little sneaky small one here. So now if you're going to put your schnitzels and finish them off in the oven, then all you're looking for here, I'm hanging on to it, I'm just being really super careful. All you're looking for is the outside to be brown. And then once it's brown, you can take it off and put it onto your tray. So mine was a little bit hot. So that guy there, he's already cooked. Now, if your chicken is cooked all the way through, then you might want to cover it with some foil now to keep in the heat. If you're going to put it into the oven, once your oven gets to 180 degrees, turn it down to 160 degrees. And then we're going to, you can put your tray straight into the oven. I'm just going to spread mine out a bit because all we want the heat in the oven to do is just to cook our chicken all the way through and keep the crispiness on the outside. What we're going to do is just read over our ingredients for our salad. So you will need some lemon juice. So remember that lemon that we did the rind from before? You'll need your lemon. You'll need a couple of apples, and you can use whatever kind of apples that you want. You can use whole egg mayonnaise. Now, I'm not going to add that only because we don't eat mayonnaise in our house, but I'm going to give you an alternative. You'll need some celery. So let me just pick off 3 celery stalks. And some walnuts. You don't have to use walnuts. You could use some cashews. You could use some pepitas. You could use some macadamias. So walnuts is the traditional ingredient, but I'm all about swappable. And you need a red onion. If you haven't got a red onion, you can use some shallots. So what we're wanting to do is with this recipe, we want to provide a balance between our schnitzel, which is a really heavy dish, and we want to provide a nice crunchy salad for the side. Fantastic. All right, so I've got myself a bowl here, and I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. All right, so you can either use a lemon juicer. I am a little on the lazy side, and I just use my hand. You might find it's much easier. You might not be strong enough to do it, depending on, or if you've got someone helping you, you could always ask them to help you squeeze your lemon. So I'm just using half my lemon. I've got a whole lemon. I'm going to use half my lemon here, and I'm just making sure that I don't get any pips in it. Great. Excellent. And I'm wiping my hands on my apron. All right. And there's really no wrong way to do this salad. I'm just going to show you my way. So I've halved my apple, and then I'm going to cut around the core. So I'll take the sticker off, that might help. And the reason we've done the lemon juice is so that our apples don't go brown. So I've halved my apple. Now, if you want to slice your apples into slices, so you can see I'm using the bridge method to cut. So very carefully, you can either just cut them into slices like that. I think I'm going to do mine more into chunks because I think it's a little bit easier to eat. But with any recipe, the beautiful thing is that you can make it your way. Cooking is super creative. You probably only need it in there for 10 minutes. Yeah, and all right, so all I'm doing here is just tossing lemon juice through the apple just to make sure that we don't want brownie apple. That wouldn't be very nice. Oh, yum. All right, and then I'm going to start slicing up celery, and you can put as much or as little celery as you want. When I was growing up, celery had these horrible thick stalks, and it was just nasty. Whereas now they've made it in such a way that the strings aren't, they're quite soft now. So when you pull a string, it's like, oh yeah. But you want, what I'm doing is I'm just doing nice, thin, small pieces of celery. So the recipe says 3 stalks. I might just do 1, I think. No, I'll do 2. Then I've got my red onion, which I'm just very nice, small, thin slices. So there's a nice lot of colours in here. You've got the pink of the red onion, and you've got the green of the celery, and you've got the apple with the skin. So I didn't take the skin off my apple. I just left it on. And already, I don't know about yours, but mine smells amazing. This is a good winter salad. So we've got our lemon juice. We've got half of our lemon juice. We've got our apples. We've got our celery. We've got our red onion. If you want to add half a cup of walnuts. Now, if you've got whole walnuts, give them a nice little smush, give them a little bang so that you break them up a bit. Now, the recipe says half a cup. I'm going to use pumpkin seeds or pepitas, and I'm just going to do a handful. They're green, but I don't want them to overwhelm the salad. I want them to be a nice crunchy bit because it's all about crunchy, but I don't want them to be like taking over the salad. Giving it a toss with my hands there. Fantastic. Oh, this is going to be amazing. If you want to squeeze the rest of your lemon juice into another little bowl, so I'm just breaking up that lemon. I'm going to fish out some of the seeds that I got. All right, now if you're using mayonnaise, you can then add 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise to your lemon juice. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some olive oil. When I actually fish my lemon seeds out. All right, here we go. So if you've got mayonnaise and you want to use mayonnaise, add 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise to your lemon juice. I'm going to add about 2, not even, I'm just going to match it. I've got olive oil, and then I'm going to give it a nice little whisk. If you've got the mayonnaise, then yours is going to look nice and creamy. And then I'm going to just drizzle that on top of my salad. And then whisk that through. Beautiful. And the good thing about this salad is that when we add the lemon, sometimes when we add lemon to say spinach leaves or rocket leaves, sometimes the lemon will make the leaves go, like make them wilt and go a bit manky. But in this salad, it doesn't matter how early we dress it because it's going to add flavour to it and it's not going to cause any of our vegetables to wilt. It's perfect. It's actually going to make the onions just even a little bit more softer.